Hello and welcome to Rohan Sci-Fi Stories. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about why I decided to publish my books in a dyslexic friendly font. I'm somebody who found out that they were dyslexic quite late in life, and I'm sure there's a lot of people of my generation and older that are dyslexic out there and don't actually know it. Maybe they have an idea that they're a little bit dyslexic, but they aren't sure about it. Um, One of the interesting things for me when I did find out I was dyslexic was that I discovered that there were books that I didn't read that I had previously considered were too difficult for me to read, which were in fact printed in a font that was too small and probably very serif, and as a result was very difficult for me to read. And at the time I was reading these books, I had presumed that I just wasn't smart enough to read them. Which I was a bit confused about because there were other books that people would have thought were difficult to read, which I was capable of reading, but certain books I was just really struggling with. And it was only in the last few years that I realized that it was, in fact, because of the font size and the type of font in those books. So what I really wanted to do when I published my own books was to publish the paperbacks and hardbacks in a font and size that was very easy for me to read. It's difficult, is I would say impossible to cater for every dyslexic person out there. I know even there's a font specifically made for dyslexic people that isn't endorsed by any of the dyslexic associations. I find it quite easy to read. Lots of dyslexic people struggle with it. So it's actually quite difficult to find a middle ground. So I kind of really just focused on what I knew was easy for me to read, and then I hoped that that would work for a lot of other people who were somewhere on the dyslexic spectrum. With Amazon, you have two options. You have your standard book and you have a large print book. Large print books are for people who have visual impairments, and that doesn't really help as a dyslexic to have the print that big, for me at least. So large print is a minimum of 18, size 18 font, and for me that doesn't really help. um, so I published something in between. Also, the large print obviously means the books are very big in comparison to your regular book. So whereas the books I printed are a little bit bigger, so they're probably costing somewhere about 70 cents more than if I printed in a regular size font. Um, so this is cold-blooded, and you will see fonts in size. So it doesn't look too different to a regular book, and this is cold-blooded here. So you'll have a look at the fonts there and the size. So what I've used here is actually a semi-serif font called Rosario. I was limited with because I use Atticus. There's only about 8 fonts in there, so I was limited to which font I could use. This one is a semi-serif font. So semi-serif font, in my mind, it still looks quite pretty, where some sans serif fonts they don't really look like they should be in a book. So this semi-serif font, Rosario, still looks quite pretty, but it's definitely very readable for me. And then you'll see also the font is a little bit bigger and the line spacing is a little bit bigger. So that's really the three things that make this different in the dyslexic friendly version. And that's the book I printed, and you'll see this is a novella. It's 50,000 word novella, so it is a little bit thicker than you would expect with a 50,000 word novella, but not that much thicker. Again, it probably costs an extra 70 to print this as opposed to if I'd used standard font. So that's a little bit about why I published it, and I hope that it helps some people out there, and I hope that people who aren't dyslexic are still happy enough to read in this slightly bigger font, and hopefully that opens up the opportunity for some people who are struggling a little bit with their reading, who are dyslexic. And I would say, if you have struggled with your spelling, if you've struggled with letters that have jumbled up on you quite easily, maybe you are dyslexic. When you're dyslexic, is you just treat things slightly differently. Changing font, like it's so easy digitally, like on my e-reader and on my computer, just changing the background color a little bit, increasing the font size, the type of font, and it just makes life so much easier. So once you know about it and you understand it, you can definitely work on things that will make your life easier as a dyslexic. Anyway, I hope that helps some people, and I hope if you are dyslexic and you read my book, please do tell me if it worked for you. I'd love feedback on it. Obviously, the um, the lovely thing about being an indie author is that I can change these things, you know. So if there is something that's easily changeable and that will make things easier for people, I can do that, you know. And that is the beauty of it. So please do send me your feedback. I am on all the social media platforms. Um, so please do get in touch, drop me a message, drop a comment maybe before you drop me a message so that I know that it's coming. And yeah, chat to you soon. Take care. Thanks so much for listening.